Senate will come to order. Senators will be in their seats. The clerk will call the roll.
Alley. Argabright. Billinger. Lazy. Blue. Bowers. Bowser. Clays from Saline. Clays from Sedgwick. Clifford. Corson. Dietrich. Erickson. Fagg. Fascudo.
Present.
Francisco. Gossage. Haley. Holscher. Klemp. Cluse. Masterson. Murphy. Owens. Peck. Peterson. Eddy. Rose. Reichman. Schmidt. Schallenberger. Shane. Starnes. Sykes. Thomas. Thompson. Titus. Tyson. Ware. Warren.
Doug Hinkle is our guest chaplain today. Senators and guests, please rise and give prayerful attention to our guest chaplain.
Please join me in prayer. Lord God, please remind us today that this is the day that you have made. Cause us to rejoice and be glad in it. Jesus, fill this chamber with your peace as we embrace the opportunity to meet the challenges of the week ahead. Thank you that you are the Prince of Peace. Jesus, we know that peace doesn't mean easy. You never promised easy, you promised help. In fact, you told us to expect tribulation and trials. You also said that if we called on you, that you would give us the peace of God, which surpasses all comprehension. In a world filled with war and violence, it's difficult to see how you could be the all-powerful God who acts in human history and are the embodiment of peace. But physical safety and political harmony don't necessarily reflect the kind of peace your son Jesus talked about. He told us, peace I leave you. My peace I give you. Not as the world gives do I give to you. Jesus, fill this chamber to the brim with your peace. Peace with you and peace with one another. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For a point of personal privilege, the chair recognizes Senator from Cloud, Senator Bowers.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. We have a guest in the building today, and I'd like to introduce you to the doctor of the day. This is Dr. Haley Lowell, not Haley Bowers any longer. She is one of our rural scholars who practices medicine in rural Kansas. She's in Marysville right now. I'm sure she'd like me to tell you that she's KU grad from medical school, but she's also a K-State grad. So I'm sure she'd like you all to know that. So this is our daughter, Haley, and you can pop up still and have your blood pressure taken. So thank you.
Are there page introductions? Chair recognizes Senator from Sedgwick, Majority Leader Blasey.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I have 4 pages today who have decided to spend part of their spring break with us here in the Kansas Senate. If you please stand when I call your name. We have Levi Snook, 6th grade, Greg Dugan, 6th grade, Haley Snook, 7th grade, and Grace Dugan, 7th grade, all from St. Elizabeth Catholic Schools in Wichita, and appreciate their service to the Senate today. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator from Pottawatomie, Senator Titus.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I'm proud to introduce 2 pages today, if you'd please stand up. I have with me today Eric Sweden, he's a 5th grader from Paxico, and Reagan Gregg, who is a senior at Topeka Seaman High School and will be attending Kansas State next year, so I'm very excited to hear that.
Thank you all for helping out. Messages from the governor. The clerk will read.
Message to the Senate of the State of Kansas. Enclosed herewith is Executive Directive number 25-594 for your information. Sincerely, Laura Kelly, the Governor.
Messages from the House. The clerk will read.
The House non-concurs in Senate amendments to House Bill 2029 and requests a conference and has appointed Representatives Francis, Essex, and Helgerson as conferees on the part of the House. The House non-concurs in Senate amendments to House Bill 2124 and requests a conference and has appointed Representatives Francis, Essex, and Helgerson as conferees on the part of the House. The House non-concurs in Senate amendments to House Bill 2155, requests a conference, and has appointed Representatives Humphreys, Williams L., and Osman as conferees on the part of the House. The House non-concurs in Senate amendments to House Bill 2347, requests a conference, and has appointed Representatives Humphreys, Williams L., and Osman as conferees on the part of the House. The House non-concurs in Senate amendments to House Bill 2045, requests a conference, and has appointed Representatives Sutton, Bergkamp, and Neighbor as conferees on the part of the House. The House non-concurs in Senate amendments to House Bill 2043, requests a conference, and has appointed Representatives Sutton, Bergkamp, and Neighbor as conferees on the part of the House. The House non-concurs in Senate amendments to House Bill 2042, requests a conference, and has appointed Representatives Sutton, Bergkamp, and Neighbor as conferees on the part of the House. The House adopts the Conference Committee report on Senate Bill 105. Announcing passage of Senate Bill 166, Senate Bill 194, announcing passage of Senate Bill 27 as amended, Senate Bill 28 as amended, Senate Bill 32 as amended, Senate Bill 42 as amended, Senate Bill 139 as amended. The House accedes to the request of the Senate for a conference on Senate Bill 18 and has appointed Representatives Francis, Essex, and Helgerson as conferees on the part of the House. Announcing passage of House Bill 2349 and House Bill 2390, the House accedes to the request of the Senate for a conference on Senate Bill 98 and has appointed Representatives Francis, Essex, and Helgerson as conferees on the part of the House. The House accedes to the request of the Senate for a conference on Senate Bill 121 and has appointed Representatives Sutton, Bergkamp, and Neighbor as conferees on the part of the House. House Bill 2390, an act concerning sales and compensating use tax. House Bill 2349, an act concerning the Scrap Metal Theft Reduction Act.
On a motion to accede on House Bill 2029, the chair recognizes Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I move the Senate accede to the request of the House for a conference on House Bill 2029.
You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries. As conferees on part of the Senate, the chair recognizes Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Peterson, the Senator from Shawnee, Senator Cluse, the Senator from Johnson, Senator Corson. For a motion to accede on House Bill 2124, the chair recognizes Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I move the Senate accede to the request of the House for a conference on House Bill 2124.
Heard the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Chair appoints as conferees on the part of the Senate, Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Peterson, Senator from Shawnee, Senator Cluse, Senator from Johnson, Senator Corson. A motion to accede on House Bill 2155. Chair recognizes Senator from Johnson, Senator Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I move the Senate accede to the request of the House for a conference on House Bill 2155.
Heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Conferees on part of the Senate. Chair recognizes Senator from Johnson, Senator Warren, Senator from Potawatomi, Senator Titus, the Senator from Johnson, Senator Corson. Motion to seat on House Bill 2347. The chair recognizes Senator from Johnson, Senator Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I move the Senate accede to the request of the House for a conference on House Bill 2347.
Heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion carried. It's conferees on part of the Senate. Chair recognizes Senator from Johnson, Senator Warren, Senator from Potawatomi, Senator Titus, the Senator from Johnson, Senator Corson. For a motion to accede on House Bill 2042, the chair recognizes Senator from Shawnee, Senator Dietrich.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I move the Senate accede to the request of the House for a conference on House Bill 2042.
Heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Conferees on part of the Senate. The chair appoints Senator from Shawnee, Senator Dietrich, Senator from Butler, Senator Fagg, Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco. For a motion to accede on House Bill 2043, the chair recognizes Senator from Shawnee, Senator Dietrich.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I move the Senate accede to the request of the House for a conference on House Bill 2043.
Heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. As conferees on part of the Senate, the chair appoints Senator from Shawnee, Senator Dietrich, Senator from Butler, Senator Fagg, Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco. For a motion to accede on House Bill 2045, chair recognizes Senator from Shawnee, Senator Dietrich.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I move the Senate accede to the request of the House for a conference on House Bill 2045.
Heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Conferees on part of the Senate, the chair appoints Senator from Shawnee, Senator Dietrich, Senator from Butler, Senator Fagg, Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco. Under the order of business, consideration of motions to concur or non-concur. The chair recognizes Senator from Shawnee, Senator Dietrich.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I move the Senate non-concur in House amendments to Senate Bill 23 and request a conference committee be appointed.
You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Chair appoints his conferees on behalf of the Senate, the Senator from Shawnee, Senator Dietrich, Senator from Butler, Senator Fagg, and the Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco. For a motion to concur, non-concur, chair recognizes Senator from Shawnee, Senator Dietrich.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I move the Senate non-concur in House amendments to Senate Bill 24 and request a conference committee be appointed.
For the motion, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Motion carries. The chair appoints his conferees on behalf of the Senate, Senator from Shawnee, Senator Dietrich, Senator from Butler, Senator Fagg, the Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco. Before recessing, are there announcements? Senator from Sherman, Senator Billinger.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Need to call a meeting at the rail when we break here for caucus for the Senate Ways and Means. We have to introduction of a bill. It'll be just a quick meeting at the rail, Senate Ways and Means. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator from Johnson, Senator Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. It's really more a personal point of privilege, if I may. I just want to recognize that, we serve up here, we serve our constituents, and I'm honored to have a constituent joining me today as my shadow and see how the work of our legislature operates, and want to introduce her to the Senate. She will be on the floor after caucus, but right now she's up in the gallery, Miss Sally Harper, so a constituent from home. So welcome, Sally. Thank you. Thank you.
Other announcements? I recognize Majority Leader from Sedgwick, Senator Blasey.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I move the Senate recess to the sound of the gavel. And after the gavel out, recess, we will head to our caucus in our normal room, 548 South.
Chair recognizes the Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. The Senate Democrats will caucus upon recess in room 287 North.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Blasey.
I move the Senate recess to the sound of the gavel.
For the motion, all in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. We are at recess. Senate will come to order. Under the order of business motions to concur, Chair recognizes Senator Johnson, Senator Thompson on Senate Bill 5.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. The changes to Senate Bill 5, fairly simple, really. They changed the effective date to the publication of the Kansas Register. Also added provisions to this. This was a bill that prevented the spending of any undesignated federal money coming down for the purposes of elections, except as appropriated by Congress for election activities or by state action here in the legislature. So about the only change aside from the enactment date was that the House added the provisions of this paragraph shall not apply to the receipt and expenditures of monies for election security. So in other words, we do have certain monies that come down specifically designated for election security, and that can still be spent. And with that, I move the Senate concur in the House amendments to Senate Bill 5 and stand for questions.
Are there questions on Senate Bill 5? Chair recognizes Senator Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. So I was remembering that the Senate also looked at that provision regarding election security and understand it has been helpful. So did the House change that, and if so, how?
Senator Johnson, Senator Thompson.
Well, it's interesting because it looks like they left it the same and made, I don't know if they changed a few words in there, but I do remember in that debate that we were concerned about, some of the money coming down for security, but the provisions of the paragraph does not apply to the receipt and expenditures of money for election security. So let me double check here. Yeah. So in other words, they can, without appropriation by Congress or state legislature appropriation, expend the money that is earmarked for the security without having to pass through those two processes. And that's the only money that would be exempt from having to be appropriated as such.
Senator Douglas, Senator Francisco.
I think that this is helpful, and it actually may mirror wording that we used in another bill, and that triggered my question, but I appreciate those words in this bill as well.
Are there other questions? Seeing none, we'll hold for final action. On a motion to concur and non-concur, Chair recognizes Senator Johnson, Senator Thompson on Senate Bill 6.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. The only change to Senate Bill 6 was a change to the enactment date and publication of the Kansas Register. That was it. That Senate Bill 6 passes 429-10. And with that, I move the Senate concur in House amendments to Senate Bill 6, and we'll stand for questions.
Are there questions on Senate Bill 6? Seeing none, we'll hold for final action. Under the order of business conference committee reports, Chair recognizes Senator Johnson, Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. The Senate Bill 105, was, as you recall, our Senate vacancy bill. It also dealt with the vacancies in the state treasurer and state insurance commissioner positions. And it was a bill that was very well worked by the Senate Federal and State Committee, did a great job, and sent it over to the House. The House added all sorts of amendments to it, but in conference committee, we basically reverted back to the original Senate Bill 105 position that it left here in the Senate in pretty much intact what our original bill looked like when we voted it out of the Senate. The only changes were actually one, we had originally required in the Senate Bill 105 that the person filling the vacancy has to be the member of the same party for 6 years.
to be considered as a nominee for a vacancy replacement. The House made a change to that requirement, but in conference committee, it reverted back to the 6-year requirement. And the other change was that came out of committee or conference committee was that they specified a deadline to call a special session and gave a 5-day window after the vacancy occurs within which time a special session could be called. So as you recall in the original Senate Bill 105, there was a joint committee on vacancy that's appointed, and if the legislature is in session, then they would send the 3 nominees to the Senate and the House for approval before sending it to the governor. But if we were out of session, the joint committee would meet. There was really no way to require a special session to be called unless the governor decided to require that. The other option is constitutionally 2/3 of the legislature can call a special session. This gives a 5-day window for that to happen. So if we're out of session, that 5-day clock starts once the vacancy is announced, and it gives a little urgency to the legislature to decide whether or not the legislature wants to come back in special session to be part of that nominating process. Once the 5-day period lapses, it would fall to the Joint Nominating Commission on Vacancies to determine the 3 nominees, which they would send to the governor. And those are really the only changes from the original Senate Bill 105. And with that, I move the Senate adopt the committee report on conference committee report on Senate Bill 105, and we'll stand for questions.
Are questions on the conference committee report on Senate Bill 105? Seeing none, we'll hold that for final action. We're now ready for final action. On this roll call, we'll take the following: the motion to concur on Senate Bill 5 and Senate Bill 6, and the conference committee report on Senate Bill 105. The clerk will read the titles.
Senate Bill 5, an act concerning elections. Senate Bill 6, an act concerning elections. And Senate Bill number 105, an act concerning the offices of the United States Senator, State Treasurer, and the Commissioner of Insurance.
Clerk will call the roll.
Alley. Argabright. Billinger. Blasey. Blue. Bowers. Bowser. Clays from Saline. Clays from Sedgwick. Clifford.
Aye.
Corson. Dietrich. Erickson. Fagg. Fascudo. Francisco. Gossage. Haley. Holscher. Klemp. Cluse. Masterson. Murphy. Owens. Peck. Peterson. Petty. Rose. Reichman. Schmidt. Schallenberger. Shane. Starnes. Sykes. Thomas. Thompson. Titus. Tyson. Ware. Warren.
Has every member had an opportunity to vote? Does any member wish to explain their vote? Does any member wish to change their vote? Senator Warren is en route. We will hold the roll open for 1 moment. Chair recognizes the senator from Johnson, Senator Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I was waiting to testify in the House Committee.
Roll call is on Senate Bill 5, Senate Bill 6, and Conference Committee Report, Senate Bill 105.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. My vote is aye.
Further explanation of vote? Further change of vote? Clerk will tally the vote. "32 having voted in favor and 8 against Senate Bill 5, 30 having voted in favor and 10 against Senate Bill 6, 31 in favor and 9 against Senate Bill 105. These measures, having received the required constitutional majority, are hereby declared passed." Chair recognizes Senator Sedgwick, Majority Leader Blasey.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of bills on the calendar under the heading of General Orders.
For the motion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Chair appoints a senator from Sedgwick, Senator Erickson, to preside over the Committee of the Whole.
The Senate, having resolved itself into the Committee of the Whole, will now consider those items listed on the calendar under the heading of General Orders. We will now turn our attention to House Bill 2333. The chair recognizes the senator from Shawnee, Senator Dietrich, to explain the bill and adopt the committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move we adopt the committee report.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 2333 is a Department of Insurance bill that would rename the Kansas Insurance Department to the Kansas Department of Insurance and make 2 other changes of note. It would change the Office of the Securities Commissioner of Kansas to the Department of Insurance Securities Division, and the Securities Commissioner as the Department of Insurance Assistant Commissioner, Securities Division. This change would also remove the requirement for the Senate to confirm the Department of Insurance Assistant Commissioner, Securities Division appointee. The position, of course, would continue to be appointed by the Commissioner of Insurance. Because the department is changing its name, there's a new Section 1 that clarifies whenever you see the Kansas Insurance Department or words of like effect in statute or any other document, the term shall be deemed to apply to the Kansas Department of Insurance. Likewise, the bill would transfer all the powers and duties and functions of the Securities Commissioner to the Department of Insurance Assistant Commissioner, Securities Division. The reason for making these changes is to bring clarity and uniformity to the current statutory framework for the regulation of insurance in the state of Kansas. Currently, some statutes within Chapter 40 refer to the Insurance Department, while others refer to the Department of Insurance. So HB 2333 brings uniformity to the statutes and clears up any confusion, hopefully. The changes to the Office of the Securities Commissioner, now being designated as Department of Insurance Securities Division, and its Commissioner as Assistant Commissioner within the Department of Insurance, represents what the Legislature did in 2017 when it consolidated the Office of the Securities Commissioner as a division within the Department of Insurance, and they moved all of the departments into one agency, and they're housed in one building under the direction of the Commissioner of Insurance. So for most folks, we would just say it just makes sense to make that change now. So the proponents were the Kansas Department of Insurance. There were no opponents, no neutrals. Amendments, the FI&I Committee changed the effective date to publication in the Kansas Register. There's no, or I should say there's negligible fiscal impact on the Department of Insurance, and there's no fiscal impact to the state. The bill passed the House Committee of the Whole on a vote of 117 to 6. Madam Chair, I will stand for questions.
Are there questions for the senator from Shawnee? Seeing none, Senator, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that when the committee rises and report House Bill 2333 favorably for passage.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. We will now turn our attention to House Bill 2044. To explain the bill and adopt the committee report, the chair recognizes the senator from Lyon, Senator Argabright.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move we adopt the committee report.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 2044 amends the Third-Party Administrators Act to require third-party administrators to maintain a separate fiduciary account for each payer and prohibit commingling of funds, either collected or held, in a fiduciary account by the administrator on behalf of multiple payers. That is the change in the amendment in Section 1. Section 2 requires that a third-party administrator immediately disclose to the commissioner by any bankruptcy petition filed by or on behalf of the administrator. The bill would provide the department in cases where an administrator files for bankruptcy with the tools to help businesses move their funds to another administrator to avoid disruptions in service to their employees. I think a main point of this amendment prohibiting the commingling of payer funds would facilitate the return of funds to the appropriate payer in the case of a bankruptcy. Proponents, Kansas Department of Insurance. There were no opponents, no neutrals. Amended by the Senate FI&I Committee, we did amend lines 37 to 39 in Section 2 to basically clarify the word immediately. That word was struck and entered at the time such filing is made. Another amendment had to do with the effective date. There is no fiscal impact to anyone. The House Bill 2044 passed 105 to 9. The Senate Bill 21, the companion bill, passed the Senate Chamber 40 to 0 on February 19th. Madam Chair, I'd stand for questions.
Are there questions for the senator from Lyon? Senator from Shawnee, Senator Dietrich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say that I think the senator from Lyon, Senator Argabright, did a nice job carrying his very first bill on the floor of the Senate. Thank you.
Any other questions for the senator from Lyon? Seeing none, Senator, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that when the committee rises and report House Bill 2044 favorable for passage as amended.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. We will now turn our attention to House Bill 2049. The chair recognizes the senator from Shawnee, Senator Dietrich, to explain the bill and adopt the committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we adopt the committee report.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 2049, it amends a statute that governs denial, revocation, and suspension of licensed insurance agents and the statute that governs licensure of public adjusters. There's a wide range of factors that the Commissioner of Insurance may consider when determining whether to deny, revoke, or suspend an agent's license or application, including any misdemeanor or felony offenses committed and other aspects of any offense, including the recency and seriousness of the conduct and the age when the offense was committed. Failing to respond to an inquiry from the Commissioner within 14 calendar days is one of those other factors in this bill. The bill also allows the Commissioner to consider the same factors when he or she is determining whether to deny, revoke, or suspend a public adjuster's license. There are also some limits as to when you can apply for a license again after a license has been denied. Actions taken by the Commissioner that would affect any license or impose any administrative penalty would be taken only after an opportunity for a hearing to be conducted in accordance with the Kansas Administrative Procedures Act. House Bill 2049 brings parity to the two statutes. Lastly, the bill allows the status of an insurance agent's license or securities registration to be considered when reviewing a public adjuster's license and allow the status of a public adjuster's license or securities registration to be considered when reviewing an insurance agent's license. So the proponents for this bill were the Kansas Department of Insurance and the National Insurance Crime Bureau that also strongly supported the bill. Their testimony was written only. There were no opponents and there were no neutrals. It was amended in committee. The House committee amended the bill to reduce the time period for a response to an inquiry to the department from within 15 business days to within 14 calendar days, which is significantly shorter. The insurance agents were not supportive of that change because it significantly reduced the amount of time they had that they could respond to a potential loss of their license. So in Senate FI&I, we amended the bill to return the amount of time an agent had to respond to an inquiry from the Commissioner to 15 business days. We also amended the effective date to publication in the Kansas Register. There's no fiscal impact on this bill. The House passed it unanimously, and this bill also mirrors Senate Bill 28, which we passed unanimously as well. Madam Chair, I will stand for questions.
Are there questions for the senator from Shawnee? Seeing none, Senator, you may close.
I move, Madam Chair, that when the committee rises and report House Bill 2049 favorably for passage.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We will now turn our attention to House Bill 2201. The chair recognizes the senator from Sedgwick, Senator Peterson, to explain the bill and adopt the committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move we adopt the committee report.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 2201 is the distinctive license plate bill for the future farmers of America. It has all the standard requirements for the numbers and minimums. We received really great testimony from some young people that came up to testify. And you note there's a fiscal note, $4,000 to the highway fund, $2,380 to revenue on the development of the plate. The development plate is paid. Development fee is paid by the organization. The $4,000 will be more than made up by the $250 minimum requirement, the $40 each plate that goes to the highway fund. That I'd stand for questions.
Are there questions for the senator from Sedgwick? Seeing none, Senator, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I move that when the committee rises and report House Bill 2201 favorably for passage.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Body, we will pass over Senate Bill 119, and it will retain a place on the calendar. We will now turn our attention to House Bill 2061. The chair recognizes the senator from Johnson, Senator Warren, to explain the bill and adopt the committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move we adopt the committee report.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Body, you will probably remember that over the last couple sessions, we have been working on protecting Kansas's critical infrastructure and protecting our utilities and from trespass and from other criminal activities. And what this bill does, it provides some additional cleanup of the bill that we have previously passed and provides some additional definition of what is critical infrastructure. You'll see it includes I apologize, been still waiting on some other business. You'll see that with the bill, the Senate committee added above ground or below ground line, cable, or wire, as well as antennas, radio transceivers, towers, wireless support structures, small cell facilities, and any associated support structures and accessory equipment, and related equipment buildings, cabinets, and storage sheds, shelters, or similar structures. You can imagine that our telecommunication is pretty important critical infrastructure as well, considering how much businesses rely on these types of wire services, how much Kansas residents rely on those. We have many who work from home and who conduct other business in their personal lives on these services, and we need to make sure that they are also subject to protection as critical infrastructure. With that, Madam Chair, I would stand for any questions.
Are there questions for the senator from Johnson? Seeing none, Senator, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that when the committee rises and report House Bill 2061 favorably for passage.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. We will turn our attention to House Bill 2371. The chair recognizes the senator from Johnson, Senator Warren, to explain the bill and adopt the committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move we adopt the committee report.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill updates and revises the revised Limited Liability Company Act. So it's a lot of technical changes, but I want to draw your attention to a couple of them. The point of the bill, the intent is to make Kansas an easier place to do business and to bring it into some clarity by providing additional definitions. One of those is the definition of document. You can imagine with the electronic documents that now comprise a whole lot of business activity, we need to make sure that we have a common understanding of what document means. And that is in the bill. It defines document to mean any tangible medium on which information is inscribed, and it would include handwritten, typed, printed, or similar instruments and copies of such instruments, as well as an electronic transmission. Electronic transmission is defined as well. There are some other terms regarding signatures. The bill would provide that the LLC Act or an operating agreement would require or permit a signature that could be manual, a facsimile, conformed, or an electronic signature. So it really kind of brings Kansas LLC law up to date. And regarding series LLCs, it requires one registration rather than multiple for each of the series. You can imagine for a condominium building, rather than each condominium unit registering as an LLC, the building and the owner of the complex would register one LLC to cover the rest. So it had broad, great support. It was a bill that was worked on with the Kansas Chamber of Commerce, Commerce, the Kansas Bankers Association, and the Kansas Bar Association as well. And where there were no opponents. With that, Madam Chair, I'd stand for questions.
Are there questions for the senator from Johnson? Seeing none, Senator, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that when the committee rises in report, it report House Bill 2371 favorably for passage.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. We will now turn our attention to House Bill 2075. The chair recognizes the senator from Johnson, Senator Gossage, to explain the bill and adopt the committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move we adopt the committee report.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. You may proceed.
Thank you. This bill was brought to us by the Kansas Child Advocate and the Kansas Department of Children and Families, and other proponents were the Children Alliance of Kansas. It merely reduces the duration between the time a child comes into state custody to the permanency hearing from 12 months to 9 months to expedite the process so the child is not in limbo and can get to some kind of permanency as soon as possible. The estimation is that it would save the state about $7 million, or the department $7 million, because the estimation is that it would have the child be no longer in state custody by about 2 months. And $4.9 million in SGF, but the most important thing is getting the child to permanency as soon as possible. And it passed unanimously out of the House, and I will stand for questions.
Are there questions for the senator from Johnson?
And
Senator
Madam
from-
Chair, I am aware of an amendment. That's why I wasn't at my desk, and I think I was looking for Senator Fasquito.
I will, she is now sitting. It's like whack-a-mole over there, for all of a sudden. Sorry. Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have some interest in making sure that when this change is made to the number of months, we also have some assurance that the parents are also aware of what's happening. So I understand that that may be the subject of an amendment.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Fasquito.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and happy St. Patrick's Day. Where's your green?
It's hidden.
Okay. Madam Chair, thank you. So I don't serve on the Senate committee that made changes to the House Bill 2075, although I did serve on the interim committee meeting, the Joint Committee on Child Welfare, and I do recall the Secretary of DCF and the discussion of the committee members. Even Senator Molly Baumgartner was on that committee, and we did talk about how long children stay in state custody. We talked about how they are in the offices. So we do want to expedite that process so that they don't just stay in limbo and linger a long time without a permanent home. Rather that be back with their biological family or with a wonderful foster family. And so we just want assurance that all the checks and balances are being made. And so in discussion with the chairwoman of that committee and with others, I hope this would be considered as a friendly amendment to make House Bill 2075 better. And so, Madam Chair, I do have an amendment.
Have you turned it in?
I have.
And do you have a number?
I do. It is HB 2075, substitute 1973.
You'll give us just a moment to get it distributed. Senator, would you like to explain your amendment or have it read?
Madam Chair, I can explain it. Um, the, this language, which is simply say that all interested parties are notified that reasonable efforts have been made to integrate, and that meaning the court's biological parents or foster parents or possible adoptive parents, that they are all made aware of those reasonable efforts to find family members or to or maybe the biological parent needs to meet some other obligations, but just so that everybody's on the same page, having the same information of those efforts prior to that hearing. And with that, Madam Chair, I'll stand for questions.
Are there questions on the amendment? Seeing Senator from Johnson, Senator Gossage.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And yet I served on the same committee that Senator Faustido is referring to. However, DCF didn't mention this when they gave their testimony, and this bill was first introduced on the House. It was their idea to reduce the number of months. When I checked with our revisor, we saw no legal issue with this. I tend to agree that this is a good idea to just make sure that they've reached out and are trying to reconcile with family first. But I stepped out to try to reach DCF to see if there was any concern from them or their thoughts on this, and I didn't have enough time to reach them before this. But I personally considered a friendly amendment, and I suppose if we were to add it, that if there was an issue with DCF, it might be something that could be taken out at conference committee if need be. So I would support this amendment, Madam Chair.
Other questions on the amendment? Seeing none, Senator, you may move your amendment.
Madam Chair, thank you, and I appreciate the gentlelady from Johnson's concerns and fixing any additional measures in conference committee. So with that, Madam Chair, I move my amendment.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. We are back on the bill. Are there additional questions for the Senator from Johnson? Seeing none, Senator, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that when the committee rises and it reports House Bill 2075 favorably for passage.
As amended?
As amended.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. We will now turn our attention to House Bill 2168. The chair recognizes the senator from Sedgwick, Senator Peterson, to explain the bill and adopt the committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move we adopt the committee report.
You have heard the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. You may proceed.
2168 is another license plate bill. It's a little unique, though. Funding goes to the Department of Revenue for replacing license plates. You might recall a couple years back, we used SGF funds to replace the standard license plates. However, there's a lot of distinctive plates, such as our military plates and stuff, that were not included in that replacement. This bill creates a blackout license plate with a $50 royalty fee. The royalty fee would be used to replace those license plates that I just mentioned. Other states have created these. Iowa, when they created theirs, sold 750,000 the first year. Minnesota sold 271,000. I don't know what their royalty fees were, but this one has a $50 royalty fee. With that, all the standard minimums apply. I'll stand for questions.
Are there questions for the senator from Sedgwick? Seeing none, Senator, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move when the committee rises and report House Bill 2168 favorable for passage.
You have heard the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. We will now turn our attention to House Bill 2030. The chair recognizes the senator from Sedgwick, Senator Clays, to explain the bill and adopt the committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move we adopt the committee report.
You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 2030 exempts dealers and manufacturers of non-motorized trailers from certain provisions of the Vehicle Dealers and Manufacturers Licensing Act. These exemptions, and this is important, do not apply to semi-trailers or travel trailers. Regulations of those more complex trailer types do remain in place. The bill also does not exempt dealers who sell other types of vehicles. It only applies to businesses dealing with non-motorized trailers. The current Kansas regulations apply motor vehicle franchise laws to non-motorized trailer dealers, creating an unnecessary regulatory burden. It doesn't really fit the industry's business model. Unlike car dealerships that typically represent a single manufacturer, trailer dealers commonly sell multiple brands and often sell other products as well. These regulations impose some rather impractical requirements on the trailer businesses, including location restrictions, advertising regulations that require VIN listings for each trailer, limitations on salespeople working across multiple locations, which is a standard practice, evidently, in the trailer industry. Dealers also face burdensome provisions regarding franchise agreement termination, dealership ownership changes, location restrictions, manufacturer-dealer disputes, vehicle delivery definitions, and facility signage requirements. These do create a significant overhead, particularly for our small Kansas businesses. House Bill 2030 would exempt these non-motorized trailer dealers and manufacturers from these provisions while maintaining the appropriate safety regulations and licensing requirements. This is a common sense reform that aligns Kansas with most other states in the surrounding area. It does support local businesses by removing barriers to expansion and allows retailers to sell multiple brands without complicated franchise agreements. I will note that the Senate committee did amend the bill to make the effective date upon publication in the Kansas Register, and the House is the one that added the amendment to make it clear that this did not apply to semi-trailers, travel trailers, and other such vehicles. The bill received no opposition during our committee hearing. It had bipartisan support in the House with a vote of 117 to 4 and would require minimal state resources. It appears that the fiscal note is $3,220 simply for a database modification. With that, Madam Chair, I stand for questions.
Are there questions for the senator from Sedgwick? Seeing none, Senator, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move when the committee rises in report, it reports HB 2030 favorably for passage.
You have heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Chair, Senator Blasey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
You have heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Clerk will read the committee report.
On motion of Senator Blasey, the Senate resolved itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of bills on the calendar under the heading of General Orders with Senator Erickson in the chair. Recommended House Bills 2333, 2044, 2049, 2201, 2061, 2371, 2168, and 2030 be amended by the adoption of the committee reports and the bills be passed as amended. Senate Bill 119 be passed over, but retain a place on the calendar, and House Bill 2075 be amended by the adoption of the committee report, but be further amended on motion of Senator Faust-Goudeau, and the bill be passed as further amended.
Chair recognizes Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move we adopt the committee report.
The motion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The committee report is adopted. Refer back to the order of business, reports of standing committees. The clerk will read.
Mr. President, The Committee on Federal and State Affairs recommends House Bill 2056 be amended by substituting with a new bill to be designated as Senate substitute for House Bill number 2056, and the substitute bill be passed. Mr. President, the Committee on Government Efficiency recommends House Bill 2304 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Public Health and Welfare recommends House Bill 2365 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Ways and Means recommends House Bill 2195 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Utilities recommends House Bill 2107 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Ways and Means recommends House Bill 2007 be amended by substituting with a new bill to be designated as the Senate substitute for substitute House Bill number 2007, and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Ways and Means recommends House Bill 2221 be passed. Mr. President, the Committee on Federal and State Affairs recommends House Concurrent Resolution 5004 be adopted. Mr. President, the Committee on Ways and Means recommends Senate Concurrent Resolution 1612 be adopted. Mr. President, the Committee on Federal and State Affairs recommends Senate Bill 146 be passed and, because the committee is of the opinion that the bills of a non-controversial nature, be placed on the consent calendar. Mr. President, the Committee on Public Health and Welfare recommends House Bill 2249 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Government Efficiency recommends House Bill 2101 be passed. And Mr. President, the Committee on Local Government, Transparency, and Ethics recommends House Bill 2160 be amended and the bill be passed as amended.
Are there announcements? Chair recognizes Senator from Sedgwick, Majority Leader Blasey.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. The Senate will be on general orders again tomorrow, and the following bills will be on the calendar. Senate Bill 69, House Bill 2102, 2185, 2312, 2048, 2068, 2007, 2107, and 2046. The Senate will also vote final action tomorrow on the consent calendar items, as well as all appointments by the governor. The Senate Republicans will caucus in our usual room upon adjournment, and I yield to the Senator from Douglas.
Senator Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. The Senate Democrats will caucus in room 287 North at noon tomorrow. I yield back to the Senator from Sedgwick.
Senator from Sedgwick, Majority Leader Blasey.
Mr. Vice President, I move the Senate adjourn until 2:30 p.m. on Tuesday, March 18th, 2025.
You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We're adjourned.